Jan or Jan, I apologize. I don't know which pronunciation is correct. And I think it's Delaware. So you've got a definition for God that everyone agrees must be true.
Well, I've come up with, well, not come up with a definition of God that must be true. It's the only explanation I can see that would make anyone believe in a God, or at least give credence to that there is a supreme being or a powerful being, and that is an alien with superior technology. I mean, if you look at any of the religions, what makes them believe in this pre-existent or great God? I mean, you have Zeus with his thunderbolts, his technology, Thor with his hammer, Jehovah with his Ark of the Covenant, pillar of fire, pillar of smoke. These all seem to be technological. You have Ezekiel, wheel within a wheel, Jacob's ladder. These all seem to be technological, advanced, supernatural things, and they're supernatural.
You know what else they seem like?
We can't understand.
Now, there's an even better explanation for what they also seem like, and those are just devices in stories to make the stories better, right? Because science fiction and fantasy like uses them too.
Odyssey. Well, I mean, is that the only thing that can convince anyone that there is a God, that he has superior technology, or
No. I mean, power? As a child, if you have someone in a position of authority tell you something, and most of what they tell you is easily provable and easily true, and they're in a position of authority and trust, then the things that may or may not be true, you're going to also believe as well, simply because of that person in authority and trust. And it doesn't take very long before stories that are told as stories become something more than the story themselves. So it doesn't take a thing, it just takes a belief. And that belief does not have to be founded on anything true, and could just come from the way that your parents talk about things. I mean, this is Santa Claus, right? Up until your parents tell you there's no Santa Claus, most kids who've been told about Santa Claus believe in a Santa Claus. Why? Because their parents tell them stuff. There's slightly more evidence for Santa Claus if the cookies get eaten and the milk is gone, and some of the presents say from Santa Claus on them. Those all go together. Then you take society going nuts with Santa Claus images and all the rest of that. It's not hard to build a belief system that Santa Claus was something that really existed, or someone who really does exist. And so God claims can do the same thing, right?
Yeah. By the way, could you pronounce could you pronounce your name real quick so that I can call you either Jan or Jan? I don't know which one's correct.
Jan.
It is Jan. Okay. That's why I wanted to double check, because I would start in and the default, the more likely one in the US is going to be Jan, and I would have just gone with it. And I realized that's probably wrong. But one of the things is that, so you're going to find similarities between the God stories. And in your case, you're taking those similarities and saying, oh, these could all be viewed as technology. Arthur C. Clarke famously pointed out that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And magic is probably the word that we're more likely and more accurately going to use for gods, because even to the extent that the gods of various religions could do something, it goes beyond what we think tech could do, or what tech can do now. And so it seems to be in the realm of magic. If it was just our ignorance that convinced us that tech was magic and therefore godly, then the answer to your question of what can convince someone, well, people can be convinced for arguments, by evidence, by anecdotes, by stories, by feelings, by fears, by ignorance. All of those things can convince people of something, but also their desires. It's really nice to think that death isn't the end, that somebody loves you, that somebody's looking out for you, that somebody's going to give you the answers afterwards. But what I'm curious about is that, and I apologize, John, is that it lists you here as a theist, but you've come up with a definition and talked about this notion that maybe all of the gods are in, I don't know if you think they're all real or if they're all not real. What God are you advocating for?
Well, I'm not advocating for any God. I'm just saying that the only explanation for people believing this nonsense, I guess I'm an agnostic. I don't believe there is a God or not, really. I really don't know. But the only explanation I can have for all these people, I mean, there are billions of people on the planet that believe in this supernatural being or prophet or whatever. And I can only say that they believe it because of this supernatural or technological marvels that were produced during these beings or stories that were created. I mean, look at the cargo cults in South Pacific. After World War II, during World War II, they'd land on these deserted islands, and there were these.
I'm aware, yeah. But the problem is that as soon as you say the only explanation for billions of people believing is that these are supernatural technological marvels, no, they're stories. They're not supernatural technological marvels. They are stories, and we are storytellers. We are story purveyors. We are the people who constantly look to find ourselves in a story and to find out what a story is going to benefit from us. Yes, there's things in there that are supernatural and technological, but the explanation for why people believe these things is because they have become convinced and compelled, in part because of the value that those stories bring them, either emotionally or assuaging fears of death and things. All of that, that's true even for a God that has nothing to do with technology.
Well, again, there's evidence of the technological or supernatural. One is like, you ever hear of Mohenjo-Daro and what they found there?
No.
Mohenjo-Daro is in India, and it's a site where they found radioactivity and radioactive skeletons that could only have been destroyed by an atomic blast.
No. Okay, Jan, every time you start making statements like it could only be explained by this, you lose us. Because you've done no work, you've shown no work. We haven't even demonstrated that the thing you're claiming is true. But as soon as you say the only explanation for it is this, you have now adopted a burden of proof that you can't meet. How do you demonstrate that the only explanation is an atomic blast specifically from technology?
Because of the high radiation, it's way over radiation background, and the isotopes can only be found after an atomic blast.
You know, curiously, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for Mohenjo-Daro. Have you been there?
Maybe not that page, but I've seen other things.
Because the word radioactive does not fucking appear on the Wikipedia page for that, which means you're probably getting your information from shitty sources. And the fact that you've taken those shitty sources and decided that the only explanation is an atomic bomb means you're probably relying too much on shitty sources.
All right.
Well, that could be good. But I'm just saying that there seems to be, if maybe that's a poor example, but there are other examples that seem to.
I don't want other examples. I don't want other examples, Jan, because you've just demonstrated that you're willing to give an example that isn't attested to in any level of significance enough to even wind up on the Wikipedia page. Yeah, so I don't trust you or your sources or the fact that you think the only explanation for this is X. Do you have some expertise in this area?
Well, I have expertise in nothing. I don't claim to be an expert in anything.
Good. Then let's find somebody with some expertise and some actual factual data before we start making claims about what happened in ancient Mohenjo-Daro.
Right. Because your source methodology appears to be leaving something to be desired when Wikipedia doesn't even mention radiation, and your best evidence seems to be this. And when you say the only thing you can think of, you're also making another mental error or a fallacy and argument from an incredulity. Just because you can't imagine can't imagine it being any other way than people explaining technology doesn't mean that is the only way. So your source methodology needs some work, and I think your basic critical thinking skills also need some work as well.
Yeah, because one of the big things is that the buildings, and I'm pulling this, by the way, from Rational Wiki, who somebody thought of this and I didn't. Here's an actual quote from Rational Wiki addressing this. One difficulty with the nuclear blast claim at Mohenjo-Daro is immediately apparent when photographs of the dig site are examined. The buildings were made of kiln-fired mud bricks. Some of the walls are still 15 feet high. How an unreinforced mud brick wall withstands a nuclear blast never seems to be addressed.
Well, I definitely, my knowledge on that particular topic could be grossly in error, and I'll admit that.
Well, Matt just did this in 2 minutes. How long have you known about this incident or this, I can't pronounce the name, Mohenjo-Daro? How long have you known about it?
Well, I probably read about it 20 years ago, and I've read it since then.
So Matt in 3 minutes, did better source methodology than you did in 20 years. You see what we're saying about maybe you need to kind of up your critical thinking game and your research game?
Well, just because one source says something doesn't mean it's true or false. It's just their opinion.
Right, but the two sources that Matt just quoted from are generally pretty good on a lot of different topics. They're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but Wikipedia is certainly a good ground zero to start researching into your topics. Rational Wiki is also another really good ground zero for such claims. So yeah, this is all in 2 minutes. He found a complete debunking of everything you just said. The best of which is simply, if there are in fact 15-foot tall mud walls still standing at site, then it was not ground zero at best, right? Because nothing survives at ground zero as far as we know, because there's too much heat, everything melts. So yeah, your source methodology needs some work and your critical thinking skills need some work.
But
not that mine are perfect or Matt's are perfect.
Yeah. But I got to let you go, Jan. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Okay, well, you take care. I enjoy your program.
Thank you very much. I enjoy the call. By the way, there's a person in chat who thought they were being clever and said that there's no way Matt read the entire Wikipedia article and discovered that the word yes, Control F is how you search through an entire page. And so if I search through an entire page and the word radio isn't there, the word radioactive isn't there, learn how to use a computer to do research. You can find things very, very, very quickly, and you don't have to read the entire article to do it.
And another trick is you can read the first sentence. Sometimes you have to read the second to know what the paragraph says. And so in a 20 or 30 paragraph article, you can pick out the relevant bits pretty quickly, get a good idea of what's in it, especially when someone's making a very specific claim, like a nuclear detonation happened at a particular site. So there's, use your search tools. Also learn how to read quickly and to scan for what you're looking for in a document. So
yeah, I'm sorry that not everybody can multitask and use Google efficiently, but it's a skill and I worked on it and it makes me able to do some stuff.